Hello, my name is Rova Muschin, and today I am presenting um, on the novel postcolonial novel Candyman by Bapsi Sidhwa. I'm probably mispronouncing this. So let's get into it. Uh, so for the overview, we are discussing what the novel is about, the historical and social context, the postcolonial themes and concepts that are found within the novel, other literary techniques the author used. Um, and shown a draft of my research question to follow up with all its analysis so far for the final assignment, and then reference list. So, introduction. What is Ice Candyman about? Um, it offers a poignant portrayal of the partition of India in 1947. Um, it follows a Parsi girl called Lenny who has polio, who lives in Lahore, a city marked by its multicultural community of Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and Parsis. Uh, th- um, the story is told through a first person perspective through Lenny's eyes, and it explores the complex relationships within a household that she has, particularly for like social, like with her parents, her ayah, socially with people, strangers she meets on the streets, and other kids. But it particularly focuses on her ayah, who is a Hindu woman who becomes the object of affection for several men throughout the novel, including the Ice Candy Man. Um, Throughout the novel, as communal tensions rise for the impending division of India, we see these personal dynamics are overshadowed by the escalating violence and upheaval. Um, the story then delves into the impact of the partition on individuals and communities, highlighting themes of identity, loyalty, and devastating effects of communal violence. Going to show how post-colonialism and how horrific it is to the minorities and people who are the victims of it. Lenny's observations throughout the novel provide a unique perspective on historical events, capturing the chaos of political and social disintegration through the innocence of a child's perspective. So, the historical and social context of this novel. The partition of India in 1947 divided British India into two independent dominions, the Union of India, which was primarily Hindu, and Pakistan, which was primarily Muslim, or at least was at the time. This division, mandated by the Indian Independence Act, occurred on August 14th to 15th in 1947, following the British withdrawal. The partition was accompanied by a massive migration of people along religious lines uh, and widespread violence. The partition was largely based on the idea of the two nation theory, where Muslims and Hindus were seen as distinct nations. This led to fears and suspicions among communities, ultimately resulting against each other, ultimately resulting in communal violence and riots. The partition was far from smooth, causing one of the largest and bloodiest human migrations ever seen, displacing about 15 million people. The process also sparked horrific communal violence and riots between Muslims, Hindus, and Sikhs across the region, in which between 200,000 and 2 million people died. Border disputes and separatist movements sprang up in the aftermath, which the author discusses a lot in an interview, which I believe is referenced on the slide as well, about which has influenced why she created this novel. So now we are on to the themes. Um, when reading a novel, there were three post-colonial themes that stuck out to me, which, as you see on the slide, is otherness, resistance, and identity and belonging. And I'll go into an explanation of all of these. Ashcroft, 2013, mentions identity several times with many various definitions. Um, Identity through the lens of politically, socially, culturally, identity through loss, whether it's a loss of yourself or loss of a loved one, um, and self identity, and so forth. There are several factors which affect one's identity, sense of identity, and the sense of how others perceive that identity and how others actually perceive your identity, and so on, which are the above factors explored by Ashcroft. Ice Candyman explores pretty much all of these. Some examples being Letty's self identity and her journey with that as a sick, disabled child. Um, in the 1940s in India, colonized by the British. Um, and so not only is there how um, her fellow people see her, and then having to change their views based on how the British view a child with polio and how it should be treated, um, and also how she's seen when she goes out. Her ayah takes her out for walks, and thus explores others' perception of her, her identity through her family, her relationship with her father. It discusses a few times how she feels she needs um, to change how she acts and lie to be interesting to him, which happens more as she gets older. As well as her identity in a religious front. An example of this is when Lenny and her ayah and her family out for a walk, and as she's a Parsi, Delaney notices the different sanctions and groups based on their religion and so forth, and how instead of how intermingling how they used to do, they're all off in groups and pretty much acting so differently around each other based on their beliefs, like Hindu versus Muslim, and towards her as well being a Parsi. And then also how the kids in that group try to interact with her, but whether or not the parents allow it. Um, Othering is according to on the focus of othering is a process of exclusion of someone or a group of someone's usually marginalized groups, socially or psychologically, which in the novel ties in very closely with identity and belonging. And then moving on to resistance. In post-colonial theory of resistance is a multifaceted theme representing various forms of challenging colonial power structures, ideologies and representations. This is shown in the book through resistance to the partition that Lanley catches wind of, along with through female characters like Aya and a story, the constant objectification and sexualization that we see on the daily life that she receives from everyone, and then her journey when she's been abducted and the violence she faces thereon as a result. And now we're on to post-colonial concepts. The two I found the strongest in the book so far have been Orientalism and agency. Orientalism and agency are intricately woven into the narrative, reflecting the complex socio-political landscape of pre- and post-partition India. Sidhwa's portrayal of the Indian subcontinent can be analysed through the lens of Said's concept of Orientalism, which examines how Western narratives have historically constructed the East as exotic, backward, and in need of Western intervention. Sidhwa's novel offers an insider's view that critiques these colonial legacies and the cultural dynamics of the time. The novel setting in Lahore, with its diverse communities, highlights the cultural richness of the region. However, the impending partition introduces external forces that disrupt this harmony, reflecting the Orientalist notion of the East as a place of inherent conflict and division. Agency in the novel explored through the experience of various characters, particularly the main character Lenny. Observations provide insight into the lives of those around her, especially Aya, her Hindu caretaker, who becomes a symbol of the personal and communal upheavals during the partition. Aya's relationship with men from different religious backgrounds, such as the Ice Candy Man, who is Muslim, and the Monsieur, I could be mispronouncing that, who is Sikh, illustrate the complexities of individual agency within the broader context of communal tensions. These interactions demonstrate how personal choices are often influenced or constrained by political and religious nuances um, and dynamics. The novel critiques the arbitrary nature of political decisions, such as the drawing of borders during the partition, which disrupt the lives of individuals who had little agency during these times. These and their lack of control. This emphasizes how larger political events can have profound and often devastating effects on personal lives, highlighting the tension between individual agency and overarching political forces. Oh, drag it on a bit here, sorry. So literary techniques. Um, I found As Candyman explored these themes and concepts that I previously mentioned through these four primary techniques here, which is point of view, imagery, symbolism, characterization. Quick examples: POV is told through first person perspective and from a child's point of view, which offers a more innocent um, innocent perspective of what's happening. Um, just she doesn't fully understand what's going on, but we as an adult can pick up from what she's saying is actually happening, which makes it more horrifying and terrifying. At least in my, at least for me. Imagery, vivid imagery to depict the emotional, social, and political landscape at the time. The title itself is symbolic, representing both the sweetness and harshness of life and the changing nature of individuals. Imagery such as religious markers, clothing, hairstyles, etc., highlighting the growing tensions and divisions between the religious groups. The Ask Candyman vendor, initially presented as a charming figure, becomes is revealed to be a cruel and vengeful character, reflecting the duality of life and the ability of individuals to transform. He can he also symbolizes both the sweetness of innocence and the coldness of reality. Symbolism, very similar to imagery. One key thing of symbolism was that birds represent freedom and activity, and the Ask Candyman's freeing of caged birds can be juxtaposed with his later act of imprisoning Aya, symbolizing the loss of freedom and the complexity of the character's actions. Characterization, uh, such as Lenny, her childhood innocence and vulnerabilities are contrasted with her growing awareness of the violence and turmoil around her. Um, Sidhwa uses Lenny's child's eye view to reveal the raw impact of political and social effects on the young mind. In different characterization through dialogue, actions, and interactions to reveal characters' personalities and motivations, and thus um, make the story more three-dimensional. Um, and here we got the research question. It's a draft. I'm gonna obviously fine tune it, but here it is. Thank you for listening. Here's my reference list. Um, yeah. I hope you enjoy.